our next speaker. Our next speaker is going to talk about himself, his bio. He's going to tell you all about himself. It's better than me telling you because I don't know anything about him at all, and he wouldn't tell me, he wouldn't release that information to me. Anyway, please welcome Mr. Jim Valentine.
Yeah, a little about me before we get into the two verses. Mentioned before that 3/4 of a century old. Makes me remember, the old Watchtower theme, "Stay alive till 75." Well, I stayed alive to 75. What did it get me? But grew up in this area, went off to college in Minnesota, picked up a bachelor's degree in chemistry, went to University of California, Santa Barbara, picked up a master's degree in chemistry, and launched myself into my work as a chemist. And so in 1972, I was in Southern California working for a small pharmaceutical company, and I had a small department that did pilot plant work. And then there in the fall, I discovered, okay, one of my chemical operators is a Jehovah's Witness. Okay. And I knew a little about the Watchtower. I knew it was a false organization. I knew that they denied Christ and a couple of other things. But at that same time, before I left the San Francisco Bay Area, I had been trained in door-to-door evangelism, Christian door-to-door evangelism. So when I moved south, and got down there in the Southland, I decided, well, I'm going to spend some time on my Saturdays and go door to door with the message of Christ, go door to door with the gospel. And of course, if you go to enough doors and get talking to people about spiritual matters, you find people that believe in anything and everything, and including all kinds of cults. And I started to reflect on this, and I remembered as a child, every year this Jehovah's Witness lady would come around to our house, and every year she was almost dragging her two beautiful twin daughters, beautiful red hair, freckles, cute little girls, almost dragging them door to door, and then and she'd try to get into a conversation with my parents, and she'd get sent on her way, and then next year she'd be back with those little girls. And so I start pondering things, and okay, here I am. I'm a chemist. I'm a Christian layman. But I need to start doing something about this Jehovah's Witness business. And so I started my studies. Of course, studies, witnesses, studies in the scriptures. And you read studies in the scriptures and you find credes in the studies. And so I really started studying the Watchtower and dealing with it more and more, and speaking in church on the subject. And got into 1973, about March, April 1973, and apparently the Lord decided I still wasn't busy enough. Chemist 5 days a week, and then Watchtower, and nights and weekends. And so he gave me Mormonism as another challenge. And so that whole thing just kept growing. And for a number of years now, I've been spending a lot of time and energy on the whole situation with Seventh-day Adventism. But Lord has never allowed me to move away and leave those Jehovah's Witnesses in the lurch, or the Mormons either, so, keep at it. Well, of course, 1979, I was, Mormons, JWs, Christian Science, Unity School, and a few other things, and started feeling I had a new message from the Lord. He could round up other people to take care of the molecules, and he wanted me to work on the people. So in the fall of '79, I left the field of chemistry and just started dealing with this whole business of Christian countercult ministry, with lots of emphasis on Jehovah's Witnesses. So that's been quite a while now. And, I keep reading the Watchtower literature, and despite what they've told me many, many times, in their literature, the light just doesn't get any brighter. It may come from different angles and so on, but the light just does not get any brighter in Watchtower literature. But then there's the matter of the Bible. Now this one, this is a New American Standard. This is actually a real Bible. But then there's this one, New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures, 2013 edition, for the Watchtower Society. This is the Word of God today. But my title is Witnessing to the Jehovah's Witnesses using 2 verses. So, of course, I found those verses in a real Bible, and I checked the New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures and found out that, they made a couple of serious errors here. They had not twisted those 2 verses. They're the truth in here, and they're actually the truth in here. So we'll work with the New World Translation today, and 2 verses. And first we go to the Gospel according to John, and we all know that there's been lots of fighting and feuding over John 1:1. Well, I'm not going to continue that fight or feud. I know what John 1:1 means, and if you check out the Watchtower, you find out that they've got it wrong. They've got it badly wrong because they're trying to avoid the deity of Christ. But we want to look at John 1:3. John 1:3, all things came into existence through him, and apart from him, not even one thing came into existence. Now that's a reference to the Word with a capital W, or the Logos. And the witnesses understand that that's referring to Jesus. So the witnesses understand that in verse 3 that the him in there is Jesus. All things came into existence through him, and apart from him, not even one thing came into existence. Well, what that means simply is he created everything that was created. He created absolutely everything that was created. Now this tells us, real quickly, this tells us 2 real big things about Jesus. A, if he created everything that was created, he is what could be called in street language a heavy hitter. Very important, very key personage here, created everything that's been created. The other thing it tells us is that Jesus was not created. He could not have been created because he created everything that was created. So that that basically murders a key Watchtower doctrine, because the Watchtower believes that Jesus was a created being, that they believe that the Father created Jesus, and that with the Father as the architect and Jesus as the construction superintendent, Jesus created everything else except himself, who had been created directly by the Father. But this verse 3, if he created everything that has been created, there goes that Watchtower doctrine right there. Boom, dead on arrival. And also, how powerful, how significant would the personage be that created everything, all the universes, all the stars, all the moons, Well, we keep that verse in our mind and the significance of that verse. And then we move to the second verse. Second verse is in the Old Testament, written by a man of God by the name of Isaiah. So we move to Isaiah chapter 44, and I want to, some of you folks already know this, but if anybody doesn't know it, you want to study Isaiah 40 up through about 48, 49 real carefully, because there's all kinds of material in there to help you deal with Jehovah's Witnesses. But here we're just looking at the one verse, Isaiah 44, verse 24. And in the words of the New World Translation, it says, "This is what Jehovah says, your repurchaser, who formed you since you were in the womb. I am Jehovah, who made everything. I stretched out the heavens by myself, and I spread out the earth." And then the rhetorical question, who was with me? Oh, well, okay. Jehovah, or Yahweh, created absolutely everything, and he did it absolutely by himself, says Isaiah. But then the Gospel of John, the Word created everything that was created. Well, and you can get the witnesses to commit to the fact that this is the Word of God. If this is the Word of God, if Isaiah, that old-time man of God, didn't make a mistake there, and if John, a New Testament man of God, didn't make a mistake there, Jesus is Jehovah, or Yahweh. And there's no getting out of it. There's no place to bail. There's no side door to run through. 2 verses. Now, using more verses is fine. That's great. But if you're forced to keep it simple, 2 verses. The beloved Apostle John, the man of God, Old Testament man of God, Isaiah. Yahweh created everything that was created, and he created everything, and he did it absolutely alone. And Jesus, the Word, created everything that was created. You can find some pretty slick, shall we say, purveyors of the Watchtower message, and they're right up against a tree when you present those verses and hit them with the significance. They're right up against a tree. No way out.